GmbH, Berlinskoj agenciji za search, performance i content marketing. Chris savjetuje novoosnovana preduzeća, mala i srednje preduzeća i korporacije. Na skoro svakoj konferenciji o digitalnom marketingu mi možemo da pronađemo nekoliko slajdova koji se bave hiperpojavama. To je da su predviđenja da će 50% svih web pretraga biti izvršeno glasom u budućnosti. Pa sada hajde da vidimo da li je ovo sve opravdano. Hi Chris, is my pronunciation okay? Hoogeveen.
Nah, it's a little bit different. It's Hoogeveen, but it's difficult to pronounce. So yes, well, thank you.
Sorry, but you're Dutch originally, right?
I'm Dutch originally, yes. Living in Berlin now, but originally from the Netherlands. Yeah.
Okay. We have a very special pronunciation of one Dutch football player. We say "kut," which is quite funny in Dutch, but just don't laugh.
Well, I do get it, but yeah.
I know what it means. Okay, so Chris, thank you for being here. We hear you loud and clear. Fire at will. It's your next 25 minutes, and we will have some questions for you, hopefully, at the end.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Hope you can see my screen now. I guess you can, and otherwise, Milos, yes, please jump in. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So first of all, good evening. I guess Milos just already introduced myself a little bit, but yes, I'm here today to talk a little bit about voice search and why I believe you should and also shouldn't care about it as a user interface. I'll try to explain, let's say, the pros and the cons of it a little bit. Everything from the perspective of digital marketing or SEO, it's more specifically. But before we dive in, just a couple of words about myself. As you said, I'm Chris Hoogeveen. I'm a senior consultant for digital marketing at Planeo. We are a Berlin-based agency, and we primarily focus on organic search, paid advertising, content marketing in the widest sense of the word, and also marketplace optimization. So if a client of ours sells their products on, let's say, eBay or Amazon, then there's of course also an algorithm behind it that we try to optimize for and make sure that their products are listed as high as possible, or at least that they are as visible as possible. So yeah, then let's dive right in. This is actually the main reason why I wanted to make this presentation. Every year since 2017, basically, is being introduced as the year of voice search. And yeah, it seems to repeat itself every year. I guess it's safe to say that we're going to get a new article live the coming month or the beginning of January that 2021 is going to be the year of voice. So this just made me question to what degree voice search is a big topic now, and I just try to look at it from different perspectives. Yeah, so before we dive into the optimization in and of itself, just some facts and figures first. Everybody that's been going to conferences on digital marketing or reads, let's say, papers about it or magazine articles, whatever else, you've probably seen this quote coming around. By 2020, 50% of all searches will be voice searches. And as you all know, it is 2020 at this point. And especially if I reflect upon my own usage, and I would say an early adopter, I try to work or try out some new technologies quite early. I didn't really recognize this, and then I saw a couple of other articles coming by, and apparently this quote is completely misquoted, misused. So if you see this coming, or if you see this somewhere, if you've read it in the past, just completely ignore it. The quote originally came from Andrew, and I forgot his last name, but he works at Baidu, the Chinese search engine, and what he specifically said was that in 5 years' time, at least 50% of all searches are going to be either through images or speech. And he was saying this, of course, the quote is already different from the quote that we have been seeing a lot. And he said this also in combination of, let's say, the Chinese market or the Asian markets, which are, as we all know, quite different from a lot of the Western markets or European markets. So if you see this quote, just completely ignore it. I see that, of course, 2020 is almost over, but yeah, this is just completely false and wrong. So what do we know is a valid question to follow up with. Back in 2016, Google's CEO said that 20 to 25% of all queries on mobile devices are voice searches, which is already a little bit higher than I would let's say imagine it. But I think that's a really good starting point, and at least gives us a little bit of a foundation. then what I looked at, or what I stumbled across, is an article from Distilled, which is a digital marketing agency from the UK. And what they did is they tried to break that down a little bit further and try to find out how many voice searches there are in general that we could do something with, that we can focus on as digital marketers, because it's of course important to know. And they started with the premise of that there's roughly 3 trillion searches a year worldwide, which is fairly agreed upon, of which 1 trillion desktop searches, 1 trillion mobile non-voice searches, 300 million mobile voice searches, which is of course relevant in this case, 300 million voice non-mobile searches, which is usually smart speakers, and so forth. And then we have roughly 400 million unfulfilled search demand. And then what they did is they start breaking that down even further. So they took the 300 million mobile voice searches and the 300 million voice non-mobile searches, which adds up to 600 mobile voice searches. And I mentioned it in quotation marks because the terminology of voice searches, in my opinion, is sometimes a little bit blurry. And that's also the premise of the article from Distilled, is that they said these are not all searches that we can focus on. They used Comscore data to break this down even further, which was based on that roughly 50% of these voice searches are control actions. That's like setting a timer, setting an alarm, things that, in my opinion, are more or closely related to voice usage instead of voice search. So we should basically separate the two here. 20% are informational repeated queries. That could be something like, what's the weather going to be today? Or can I expect any traffic on my way to work? Basically, queries like that. Again, that's something that we can really work with as marketeers. Then there's, according to Comscore, 5 to 10% personal searches. That could be something like looking for a particular song on your phone, going through your Spotify playlist, or maybe looking for a particular podcast episode. And then at the end, they ended up with 20 to 25% real searches. And they broke that down even further, because not all of these searches is something that we can work with. Again, there's also some navigational searches or maybe company searches, depending on what company you work for, but again, not really something that we can do. And at the end, what they came up with was roughly 12 million searches a year, which breaks down to 100K searches a month worldwide. So, and even though they made a lot of assumptions and a lot of generalizations in their method, which they're also quite clear about in their article, I really like this approach by just, looking at it from a different angle and seeing, like, what is really the potential there for us as marketing people or digital marketeers in that sense. Then another really interesting concept that I wanted to share with you here was introduced by Bill Buxton. I believe he used to work at Microsoft, but I could be wrong there. And what he did is he took the concept of a persona, which you all know from marketing, right? Basically an example or a summarized version of your target group. And he used that to create personas. So situations that you could be in where a voice user interface might be the most applicable solution. He used eyes versus ears and also hands versus voice. Of course, if my eyes are free but my ears are occupied, then of course screen is the best solution. Maybe I'm traveling in a loud subway, then the screen is definitely the best interface at that point. If my eyes are free and my ears are free, which you can see on the right top, screen is probably best because I can also look at video, so I just have the most possibilities there. However, if my eyes are occupied but my ears are free, then of course spoken word is the best interface, so I could definitely work with the voice interface there. If I then compare that with hands versus voice, if my hands are free but my voice is unavailable, then again, keyword is best. Maybe I'm in a library, so I cannot really speak. Then if my hands are occupied, maybe I'm cooking, I'm cutting an onion or whatever, but my voice is available, then again, spoken word is the best user interface. So I would take this model and think about what are situations that my potential customers or target group could be in, where a voice interface might make the most sense, would be the best solution in that particular case. To make this a little bit more practical, one of our clients, HelloFresh, they sell these cooking boxes. I'm not sure if they're also active in Serbia, but maybe you've heard of the brand. And of course, their audience or their customers work a lot with their recipes. They get the paper leaflet with the recipe in the box, but of course, they find themselves in a lot of situations where they are occupied. So it could be a real clean solution for a company like HelloFresh to create something in the sense of a voice interface. So I would take this model and think about what could be particular situations where my target audience or my potential customers can be in, where this applies. Yeah, then I brought a little bit of additional data here. This is data from Stone Temple. They asked a little over 1,000 people in what environments people use voice commands. The data in and of itself is not even that relevant or interesting in my opinion, but what I really like is the trend. So as you can see, nothing much changed in the way people use voice commands in their private settings, so home alone, home with friends, even in the office alone. But what you can see is a pretty significant increase in more public settings. So at the gym, at the restaurant alone, public transportation, settings like that. And then again, if I reflect upon my own usage, if you would have asked me 3 or 4 years ago, I wouldn't be really comfortable in speaking into my phone and giving it a command when I was maybe taking the tram home. Now it will be a completely different situation. So of course, that all speaks towards using, or at least an increase of using voice as an interface. So I found that pretty interesting, at least the trend of that. Then I also pulled in or looked at some data. This is from 2019, so from last year, from Voicebotai. And if voice as a topic is of interest, I would definitely recommend checking their website. They have a lot of good stuff on there. But what you can see is what people use smart speakers for. That's basically what they looked at. And again, it's a lot of these voice usage topics, in my opinion. It's like checking the weather, or setting an alarm, setting a timer, listening to radio. Again, that's something that we can work with. The first stuff that is really of interest of me is the search for product info. Yeah, a little over 41% has ever tried it. Then almost 28% do it on a monthly basis, and almost 11% on a daily basis. Also, something like maybe finding a recipe or cooking instructions could again be really relevant for HelloFresh, for example, as a client. Yeah, a little over 40% has ever done it. 26% do it on a monthly basis, and almost 8% do it on a daily basis. And then the last one, which is I guess the most interesting, making a purchase. Yeah, 26% have ever tried it. 50% do it on a monthly basis, and almost 4%, a little less than 4%, do it on a daily basis. I guess making a purchase is still a little bit difficult with voice interfaces. If you're buying the same milk or buying the same butter every week or every month, then I guess it's easy just to do it with your smart speaker and making sure that Amazon sends it to you. I get that. But if you want to buy a phone or a laptop or anything related to that, I don't think voice interfaces are the applicable solution there. But that could change. In any case, this is the data that Voicebotai came with. Yeah, pardon for the ugly graph, but I broke it down for you to make it a little bit more digestible. This is some data from Statista, where they looked at what is the market share of smart speakers, where you can see that Amazon is clearly on top with 35.5%. Then we have Google with 30%. And then we have a couple of Asian players, Alibaba, Baidu, so the Chinese search engine. And then with 4.1% is Apple with their HomePod, where you can see that they completely missed the boat. They were late with introducing their smart speaker. It's of course a little bit more expensive, especially if you compare it to the more affordable options like a Google Home or an Echo. And that's where really the problem with the HomePod comes in. In my personal opinion, Siri is also still a lot to win when you compare that to, let's say, Alexa or the Google Assistant. But that's maybe also my personal opinion. Then I also looked at the virtual assistant penetration. It's a little bit outdated information, but I couldn't really find anything that was newer in that sense. Nonetheless, I think it gives a good picture due to the fact that Android is really widespread as an operating system. You can see that they clearly take the lead with 51%. Then we have Apple Siri with 31%. Again, Baidu with 70%. Samsung, because it's pre-installed on a lot of phones, it still has 10%. And then what's quite interesting, in my opinion, 0.1% is Alexa. And if I take a little bit of a market analysis here, I think that's one of the biggest threats for Alexa, is that they lack a really good, let's say, integration on mobile phones. And they have it, but it's still, I mean, not comparable to, let's say, the Google Assistant or Apple Siri in that sense. And I really think that that's one of the bigger threats for Alexa in that sense. And before we dive into the optimization, I have one more last overview. This is just an overview of the assistants, who was their manufacturer, what devices you can find them on. But what I find mostly interesting is, and what I didn't know before, is the sources. So where do they pull their data from? This is, of course, if we start thinking about optimization, a really good starting point. Of course, the Google Assistant uses Google, but Amazon Alexa uses the Bing search engine. So they use Bing answer boxes, Bing knowledge graph to pull in their information. Same, of course, applies to Cortana, which is a Microsoft product, but especially with Amazon, I was a little bit surprised that they also pull in their information from Microsoft, or at least the Bing search engine. So then we move to, let's say, a little bit more of the practical stuff. How does this all relate to SEO, and what can you do about it? Where can you optimize? And mostly what it comes down to, elements where they pull in their information, but this is the, let's say, the most practical stuff that we can optimize for, is these answer boxes. So if you type in a particular search query or a question, then Google is directly answering that with a snippet that it pulls directly from a website. And that's what they do here. And what's really interesting about these featured snippets is that you don't necessarily have to rank on the first position to get it, as long as you give the most concise answer on the topic. And that's, of course, quite interesting. Even if you rank the third or the fourth position, this is a really good way, or a really good opportunity for you to be more present within the SERPs. There's different types of feature snippets, which is important to know before you start optimizing for it. There's the paragraph, which is just a simple, let's say, piece of or block of text that it pulls directly from a website into the search result page. You see these the most frequently. Sometimes it's with an image, sometimes it's without. Then we have the lists. Yeah, in this case, fever symptoms, of course, a list visualization makes the most sense. We also have tables, yeah, population of cities in Germany, where you could see Google is integrating a table visualization directly from a website, in this case, worldpopulationreview.com. And then the last one, which is a little bit of a sidetrack, but I think it's really interesting, is that you also have a video integration. In this case, how to braid your own hair. Of course, my hair is not long enough to be braided, but let's say I wanted to learn how to do it. Then Google is directly suggesting me the 77 seconds from that video, where it exactly explains to me how to braid my own hair. It will skip the introduction where the girl maybe asks for likes, subscribers, whatever else. It will just show me that little clip. It will also skip the part of, let's say, all the other fancy braiding ways there are. It will only show me what I'm actually asking. So I think this is a really clever integration of also showing a featured snippet. So then, of course, again, a little bit more practical, how do we optimize for it? And it starts with, as with almost everything in SEO, it starts with one of the pillars, keyword research. But in this case, try to focus on question type search queries, yeah, like why, how, what. Those are the things that Google most frequently shows these feature snippets for. So try to focus on those. Check people also ask boxes. And sorry for going up and down, but just to show the example, this is the people also ask box. If you have a question asked in your bar, and Google shows this, then most likely these questions are related in some thematical way to the question that you've asked. So it could be relevant, but to check those and also see, okay, maybe some of these questions are also relevant for my piece of content or for my landing page, and I should maybe integrate it and try to answer it. Then pull in SERP features. I will get to that in the next slide in a little bit more detail. And as the last topic is identify potentials by checking your competitors. If you know my competitors are already answering a couple of these featured snippets in Google, then maybe try to check them, try to see, maybe I can even give a more concise answer to this question, or maybe I can even pull in a more applicable visualization. Let's say they're not showing the list, but a list makes more sense in this case, and try to, let's say, outperform or outrank them in that sense. The SERP features I was just talking about, this is a screenshot of one of our content strategies. So if you do keyword research, we create a big file with all the keywords, all the search intents that could be relevant for a particular client. This is from a client who had to black out the keyword stuff for the brand. Nonetheless, what it's all about is per keyword, what we do is we pull in additional data, SERP features in this case. So what is Google displaying for a particular keyword? Is it a featured snippet? Is it a video? Is it an image? Is it a shopping result? Just to get as much information on a particular keyword as we can, so that we can also better optimize for it. I would highly recommend doing it as well. Another really great tool to use or method is answer the public. If you have a topic in mind, if you have a focused topic to work on, in this case, I just typed in, for the sake of an example here, car insurance, and I show the how question. How does car insurances work? How is car insurance calculated? How does car insurance access work? How do deductibles work? questions that are all related to car insurance in that sense. And if I have anything to do with car insurance, these are questions I would probably want to answer on my website for customers or even potential customers. And that's exactly what this tool does. So it will check questions, it pulls it directly from Google, see what questions they have asked in the past, and it will show you these directly in the tool. So if you want to focus more on these more conversational questions or questions in general, then definitely start working with this tool. It's even free up to a couple of searches a day. So this is definitely a good starting point. What is really good about this more conversational way of searching is that customer intent is up for grabs. Yeah, if you've worked in SEO in the past, then traditionally people might be looking for 59-inch 4K LGTV. Yeah, it doesn't really tell me what the user wants. It doesn't really tell me, is it looking to buy the television? Is it looking to check specifications, to read reviews? I don't really know. Whereas we focus more on this conversational search, it will go in the direction of how much does a 59 4K LGTV cost, right? Or where can I buy it? The intent is directly clear and makes it much easier for me as a digital marketer to give the right answer. And then the second part is Reoptimize existing content. Yeah, all the on-page factors, all the technical factors apply. Page speed, loading times in that sense, mobile friendliness, crawling, all those topics are relevant. We first need to get, let's say, the top 10 ranking result, and then we can try to focus on the featured snippet. So that has to be said here. After that, try to use Q&A formatting to structure your content. So maybe asking the question in one of the headers, answering it directly below. It will just make Google's job so much easier because it will understand the relevance between the two. Also think about the visualizations that I spoke about before. So maybe adding lists, adding tables, other visualizations that could enhance your content and that you might expect could be needed for that particular question or that particular search query. Then this one is also quite interesting. It's also a little bit of a sidetrack, but there's a new schema.org markup, which is called Speakable. And in a really simplified way, this is related to structured data. And structured data is a way that you can give the search engines a little bit more information about your website or elements on your website. And it will use that to usually create more visualizations in the SERP. So if I'm telling Google, this is my product, this is my price, you've probably seen them in the Google search results before, then Google understands that and pulls that also in the Google result pages. And there's a new type here. It's still in beta, but it's called Speakable. So let's say you've optimized a couple of sentences to be read out loud. So it's just sentences easy to understand. Then this is a good way, or could potentially be a good way to tag them. So basically give them two tags. Okay, this Google, these couple of sentences are speakable, and you could use that. And it could be a fair assumption that this will be rolled out into more markets, and this will be used on a much more frequent basis and being pulled out of the beta, basically. Yeah, then some pros and cons, because if I talk about featured snippets, then one of the first questions that I usually get is, what about these click-through rates? Yeah, which is a fair complaint or a fair question, because what we're doing is we're showing an answer directly in the Google search results. And what that does, or at least what it could potentially do, people get the answer, they don't need to click, so they will not leave a land on my website anymore, which is a genuine issue. And with a lot of things in SEO, the answer to that question is it depends. So we have types, or at least search queries. In this case, this is an example of one of our clients, where, as you can see in the beginning, we had a pretty decent ranking. We were on the second ranking position. We had a click-through rate of 22%, which is okay for the second position in this case. But we wanted to get more out of it. We knew a featured snippet was ranking there, so we tried to optimize for it. We restructured the content a little bit, asked the question also really clearly in the text, and then we won the featured snippet. As you can see, we improved, of course, our position, so we went in the first position, and our click-through rate actually increased to 37% in that sense. So in that case, it didn't really decrease any of our clicks to our website, it actually increased them. So in that sense, it was really positive. We also have other examples, of course. So in this case, we were ranking somewhere on the 8th position. We didn't have any clicks to the landing page, so it wasn't really a big success, so to speak. But then after we optimized for it, we of course got the featured snippet, which is nice. I mean, that's already a good accomplishment, but the click-through rate only raised to almost 4%, which, I mean, it's nice, it's better than nothing, but it doesn't really make the time or the money that we invested in a piece of content that much more worthwhile. So, and that was a shame. And that's why it's definitely good to critically look at the questions or the keyword types that you want to focus on. So try to pick your battles, definitely. Try to focus on the right type of search queries in this case. And one of the things that you should think about is ignore these single response queries. And I got a really simplified example here, but how old is Donald Trump? Yeah, it has a lot of search volume. This is a screenshot from Ahrefs, one of the tools, where you can see that it has almost a search volume of 130,000 per month, which is significant, right? On general, you would say, okay, that's quite a lot of potential there. If I have anything to do with politics or with politicians in the US, then maybe I could write something about this. But then if you look at the searches without clicks, Ahrefs attempts to try to do a calculation about it. You can see that 92% of those remain, as you can see here, remain without clicks. And that's mainly due to the fact, because if you look at the result, in this case it's a knowledge graph, but the idea stays the same. How old is Donald Trump? It will show me the result. It will show me his birthday, basically. So there's no incentive for me to even click the result. And there's more examples of these. So try to focus on the types of search queries or the types of questions where you're basically luring the people to your website, where you're giving an answer, but they still need to basically get more information. That's where you can see a lot of impact. And that's also the stuff that's being used, of course, in these featured snippets a lot. So to summarize here, try to distinguish, at least if you read it, and this could be tricky, but try to distinguish between voice usage and voice search. For me, there's completely different topics. I cannot optimize for setting a time or setting an alarm. That's voice usage. That's a completely different topic. I want to focus on the voice search stuff. Also, think of applicable personas for your business. Yeah, are there situations where they could be in where a voice interface makes the most sense? And if that is so, then yeah, maybe there are definitely good applications for integrating that in your marketing strategy. And also, if that's the case, do keyword research to identify the right questions, right? Try to use the tools that I've showed. Try to Answer the Public. It will give you a wide range of questions, and it's a really good starting point. And also optimize for the right types of featured snippet. Yeah, whether that's a list, whether it's a table, an image, a video, whatever else it is. Try to get it right and increase your chances of getting the actual featured snippet. And also, if you're focusing on it, try to keep a close eye on those click-through rates. Like, are actually people clicking on your results? Because if that's not the case, then maybe your focus should be somewhere else, or maybe you picked out the wrong question. Just definitely keep a close eye to also track your progress on these. And the last one, it's closely related to the click-through rates, is try to avoid optimizing for these single response queries. That's not where the potential lies. If you say there are some questions that we can directly answer, but it's good for my branding because I can show my brand there or whatever else, then there's definitely arguments for that, but in general, I would try to first focus on other topics. Yeah. Yes, and that's it from my side. I'm curious to hear if there are any questions.
Yes, there is one. Is it okay now? Hoogeveen.
It's close, but I mean, I don't blame you. A lot of people don't get it right on the first try, so all good.
Okay, so Chris, one question for you. Hi, Chris. Thanks for great insights. What do you think about voice-activated ads?
Voice-activated ads.
Yeah.
Gosh, I mean, voice-activated ads in that sense. Yeah, it's a good question. I see it a little bit. My personal opinion of that, it will be to what degree they are personalized. I mean, it's a voice-activated ad in that sense. I'm personally not a big fan of them, at least not to receive them, to be on the receiving end, but I think that's generalizing with a lot of ads. I think it depends. It depends on your target group, depends on your business. It's difficult to give, let's say, a more generalizing answer here. I know it's a poor answer in that sense, but yeah.
Okay, I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, no more questions for you. Thank you very much, Chris. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. Bye bye. Bye bye. Evo čuli smo šta kaže Chris